Arrow Video's limited edition 4K UHD of Paul Schrader's American Gigolo is stacked with so many extras and goodies, it has to be the physical media release of the year. A Dolby Vision presentation remastered from the original camera negative, audio commentary by film critic Adrian Martin, a double-sided fold-out poster featuring original and new artwork, 6 poster card-sized reproduction art cards, an illustrated collector's booklet featuring new and archival articles, original press materials, tons of new interviews with Schrader, Hector Elizondo, Bill Duke, and so much more. Get your copy today at arrowvideo.com.
It just felt right. It just felt like, okay, this is your moment. This is your time. Here's where you're going to prove to yourself and everyone else that you're more than the scary movie guy who slips on a banana peel, or the MTV VJ who's saying, hey, coming up next is, Kid Rock. I never really got to flex those muscles. And a lot of people say to me, they'll come up, they're like, man, I didn't think you had it in you about this performance. And not to sound arrogant, but I knew I had it in me.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Simon Rex is an actor. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work. Do you have a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new character? Like, is there a typical road you go down to kind of wrap your arms around this new person?
No, it's different every time. So it totally depends on the project. If it's specifically, if it's a comedy, I may approach it very differently than I would if it's some serious dramatic piece. If it's a character that's very similar and close to me, I don't want to overthink it, and I just do a version of myself. If it's, it all depends. For instance, one thing I learned, I heard Sean Penn do, is when he did Spicoli, he basically said, oh, there's a guy I surfed with in Venice who talked like that. And when I had to play a surfer dude, I just did an impression of this guy who really talked like, no way. So sometimes my approach could be as simple as, oh, this guy this character reminds me of a friend of mine. I'm just going to do an impression of my friend. And then the voice is there, and you automatically know their cadence and their rhythm, and it could be that simple. So there could be something that simple, or it could be something. So to answer your question, there's not one way. Yeah. It all depends.
Yeah. And I think that there's something to be said about simply embodying somebody you know. And on film, I don't know if you can get away with this in the theater, I don't know. But I'm just saying, there's so much that you are taking in from knowing someone, that when you're doing that, you could be reaching something more tangible than if you spent a year kind of researching somebody. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's something magical to, it's more than imitating when you know somebody, because you're hauling in this other stuff about them and your relationship that I think is working in you. Yeah. Right? I mean, is that what you feel when you do something like that? Because you're not just saying a voice.
Right.
I mean, like, there's no way that Sean Penn's depiction of that guy was simply a voice.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he was witnessing something in that dude that he was appreciating enough to remember later.
He probably spent enough time with him in the water to know him as a person, to maybe understand why he would say the things he says. Yes. Maybe he knows his background. Maybe he found out he's an only child. Maybe he found out that his never knew was dead. I mean, there's a million things that you can just take from, like for instance, if I was to do an impression, which I've done, of a friend of mine, nobody that's watching the movie, except maybe 2 or 3 friends of me and that guy, would know that I'm doing that. And the rest of the world has no idea. Yeah. But I already know all the little nuanced things that a buddy of mine would do and why he does them. So it's not just the voice, like you said. Yes. Of course, then there's other things like, for instance, I just did a movie where I had to play a chef, okay? And my brother's a chef. chef, and I know how his mannerisms are and how serious he takes cooking and how serious everything is, from the way he handles his knife to the way he prepares his food to the way he, it's his life. Cooking is his life. It's not just like it's a vocation. It's not just a job. So when I played a chef, I was like, oh, cool. I know what my brother, how he talks and acts about food. It's so important to him. Mm-hmm. It's such a big deal. And when he hands me a knife that he got, this Japanese knife, it was like he was handing me a sacred object. Yeah. He cared so much. So that kind of stuff that you can pull from, that makes it easier.
Knowing this, did this actually help you do what you had to do in the role? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some people who say, I don't need to do that. They let them cut to something. That's a waste of time to go to a cooking class. Uh-huh. But there must be something that you're gaining, not just the being able to fool people.
It's
right?
I'm getting confidence, because if I was just here's a piece of fish and a knife, go, I would actually be uncomfortable in that environment holding a knife, and I think that would affect the performance. Yeah. If I just went for a couple weeks and I got that much more comfortable, then I think I'm more relaxed, and then I think everything is better because I'm relaxed. Because obviously, as you know, the enemy of acting is like being uptight and overthinking, unless that's the character you're playing. Yeah. I think the more relaxed you are, the more time you have to have thoughts and listen and respond and be in your, but if you're uptight and wound up, you're not going to be able to be an open channel. You're going to be all wound up and overthinking. Right. And so even just that, it helps, I think.
Right. And you were saying somewhere that even for like something like the Sweet East, you're playing a guy who has to spout all this stuff that you didn't really understand so well.
Correct.
And then like just
I had to go learn it.
Getting an idea of getting your arms around that kind of material probably helped too, even though somebody could just actually learn the lines and say it. Right. But the idea that you actually learned what he's talking about there.
Yeah, well, because, for instance, for anybody listening, the movie is, I played a Nazi sympathizer and a professor at a university who's very loquacious, and he's, talking 100 miles an hour about all these historical facts. So, of course, I went and, I go, thank God for YouTube. I go onto YouTube and I look up these historical events, and I can actually watch them, learn about them, read about them. So that way, when I'm saying the lines, I am not just reciting words. I am actually visualizing what I'm talking about, and that just makes it that much more real, you know, for me and the person watching and my co-star, so you're not just a robot, So yeah, of course, that helps so much. I mean, I can't even imagine before YouTube what a great tool. You used to have to go to a library and just read, and now you could have a visual component.
I know.
And I'm very visual. I think I learn more like watching and learning than just that. Reading is obviously great, but if I could watch a video on some World War II historical event at a Nazi rally, then that's really in my head, and I saw it.
Yeah.
And I witnessed it, and it helps a lot.
We're old enough to know what it's like to not have these resources.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't remember. Like, what did we do?
We used to carry a book bag with remember the Encyclopedia Britannica? We used to have to go to the library, and there would just be all these books. It was so intimidating. And it was just, now you have in your phone all the whole
so
world's
weird,
history.
right?
It's insane. Yeah. But it's a good tool for an actor to be able to access all of the world's information in the palm of your hand so quick. It helps. I use it all the time. Yeah. And not just YouTube. Now AI, the Google search is now AI, and you can just look up anything like that, and it's helpful. I mean, I don't know if it's even considered cheating. I think you're learning. No. However it is that you're learning, you're getting the information. But I find it to be very helpful. Even with the cooking thing, I just played a chef in this movie Blink Twice. So I played Channing Tatum's best friend who's a chef. So I would go onto these YouTube tutorial sashimi things, and I would just be like, oh, look how he's holding the knife. That's interesting. I asked my brother, give me a quick lesson. I took a cooking class. So an accumulative few hours of studying helped me tremendously to just feel a little more confident.
A lot of people that come on the show don't have an interesting bifurcation of careers, kind of like that you do. And you've talked about this, and I want you to take us back to a particular moment. You moved to the Joshua Tree Desert, and we're like, all right, there's not a lot of work right now, and I'm okay with this. And then you got a phone call.
Yeah.
famously, and then suddenly you're driving to Texas and you're in Red Rocket, which changed everything.
I'm sitting here with you now.
Right. It seems like you're the kind of guy who, it's not the end of the world if you think it's the end of your career, right?
Correct.
Because you live life, and you know what I mean? Like, there's other things to life.
Right.
But I want you to take me back to like a week before that phone call, where this person now, who has been able to flap your acting wings for a couple years now, was mentally then, in terms of an artist.
I truly surrendered to the fact that maybe my acting career is over. I had been in LA for 20 years. I had some ups and downs, and I had a lot of success, more than 99% of people that came to LA. So I was very grateful, doing things like, Scary Movie, doing, which were huge franchise movies in the early 2000s, to WB TV shows back when they were giving holding deals and giving you six figures to hold you to not work for another TV show. Whether I was on Felicity, which was a big hit show, or I was on a sitcom with Amanda Bynes, or, I worked a lot and made a lot of money in the early 2000s and bought a house. And I had some peaks and valleys. And I think after 20 years in LA, right when I moved to Joshua Tree, I sort of hit the wall with, I was kind of just over it. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care if my acting career was over. I wasn't holding on to it anymore. I look back at it like, okay, I did pretty well. I should be proud. And I don't need to be a working actor to be happy. I could figure something else out. So let me go move out to Joshua Tree, buy a little house in the desert. Maybe I'll Airbnb it out, open up some new doors and see what presents itself out there. Because sitting around in LA waiting for the phone to ring just ain't cutting it anymore. Yeah. My soul was kind of rotting, and I was just like, I was done. Yeah. It was sort of almost at peace. I was almost at peace with it. And it truly just like, okay, you know what? It was during COVID, obviously, too, that this happened. This was 2020. So I was out there for a few months in Joshua Tree before Sean Baker called in July of 2020. And I was out there just going, okay, I take my life savings, I put it in this house. I'm going to make this little retreat in the desert that I can rent out for weddings or yoga retreats, or I can use it for Airbnb, or something will happen if I just get out of my comfort zone and try something new and just say, I'm good. And I'm only 2 hours away from LA in case the phone rings. So a little part of me was maybe it's not over, but you know what? Maybe it is. So I was just like, hey, I'm okay with the fact that the phone ain't ringing anymore. And of course, right when I was at that place of not caring anymore is when the phone rings, just like anything, not to sound too spiritual woo-woo, but the more you hold on tight, the more it slips away. The more you want it, the less it comes to you. And the more you sort of surrender and let it come, that's when the magic happens. And that applies to work, money, women, anything. I think the more desperate you are, the more it goes away. So I was just like, hey, whatever. And of course, that's when I get a call from Sean Baker to put me in a movie during COVID that changed my life forever. And it's funny because people will ask me, they're like, oh man, so what? You just moved to the desert and then Sean Baker called. Maybe I need to do that. And I say, I don't think it works that way. I don't think because you're attaching a result. You already have an intention, and you think that I truly went out there like, fuck it, I don't know, and I'm okay with it, and I'll figure something else out. I'll be fine.
And even if Sean Baker did call those people, you know what I mean? It's like, guys, it's not. There is an aspect here.
It's not
too,
just the phone call.
And that's what I want to talk about now. Like, your acting muscles were in atrophy.
And yet I was rusty.
And yet you did this incredible performance. So something had to be either still in you that was working besides the fact that your acting muscles weren't being flapped, or something in the environment of this particular movie, or just the idea of this particular character. What was it? Was it all of them?
It was all of them. Yeah, it's a little of everything.
Yeah.
And it was, I think just like riding, and this sounds cliche, but just like riding a bike. I mean, if you do something for 25 years, like I have been, which is acting and, you know, doing television shows, movies, studying in New York City here in the 90s, doing, you know, theater. I never did plays, but I studied theater scenes. And so it was in me for 25 years. So it is some muscle memory, and it is like riding a bike. And I think I learned enough at that point to be able to turn it on. And of course, when you have Sean Baker sort of steering you the right way and putting you in an environment like he did that was so real, kind of makes your job a lot easier when you're surrounded by real people that aren't actors. You know, I was in this world that he put, you know, not created. It was an existing world, but it wasn't a movie set. It wasn't a bunch of actors. I was truly surrounded by these local Texas people that were in their house shooting as the movie set in a drug dealer's house. You know, everything was so authentic, and it made my job that much easier. And Sean really let me improv a lot, and he trusted me. And I just kind of also knew deep inside, like, this is it. Like, this is bottom of the ninth. Yeah. I'm pinch hitting. If I don't nail this one, I mean, this is it. Like, I got to nail this one.
Well, some people could say, wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
and then, but you're saying that you actually leaned into that pressure.
Yeah, I did because I had nothing at that point. I had nothing to lose. I already was just like, okay, it's like, you know. So I did lean into it, and I just went for it, and it was it was one of those unicorn experiences that comes once in a lifetime to have someone like a Sean. The whole thing was a big happy accident, from shooting it during COVID to, you know, Sean squeezing this movie in when he had another one that he was supposed to do. To me, the whole thing was just like, you know, lined up by the cosmos, something bigger than me. And it just felt right. It just felt like, okay, this is your moment. This is your time. Here's where you're going to prove to yourself and everyone else that you're more than the scary movie guy who slips on a banana peel, or the MTV VJ who's saying, hey, coming up next is, you know, Kid Rock. You know, I never really got to flex those muscles. And a lot of people say to me, they'll come up, they're like, man, I didn't think you had it in you about this performance. Yeah. And not to sound arrogant, but I knew I had it in me. I truly knew I had it. I always knew I could do this. I just never had someone like Sean Baker. It just was the perfect storm.
Doesn't this scare you when you think about other people that are like this, that don't have their Sean Baker?
Yes, of course. I am very realistically aware of how fortunate I am. You know, luck is opportunity meets preparation or whatever. So it was a lot of lucky timing and all this stuff, but it had been 25 years that had built up to that moment for Sean to give me that chance. So, you know, there is a lot of talented people out there who may never get their shot. And what's actually really sweet is I'll be out in LA or New York, and I'll see peers and other actors, and they'll come up to me and say, your story's really inspiring. You know, like, this is just a testament to that. It's never over. You're always one thing away. Yeah. You're always, you know, you just never know. Yeah. And I just got very lucky that Sean saw something in me and believed in me, and gave me the shot. And it's just, the whole thing is still sort of a surreal. It happened 3 years ago now, and I'm still reeling from the whole thing. Just like, I can't believe I got an Independent Spirt Award, and I got all these, you know, at my little tiny house in Joshua Tree, I have all these like best actor awards from festivals, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? You know, it's surreal. And I have some imposter syndrome a bit around it. I have low self-esteem in a lot of ways. It's really weird.
It's probably good though, right?
I think a healthy dose of it is good. I think it is.
You need that.
You do need that.
If you didn't have that, then
once you drink your own Kool-Aid, it's over. Right?
That's perfect.
So
perfect.
I think that's okay to have that, and so
and that keeps you going. That keeps you going, and that, you know. And was there anything on that set that you didn't think that you'd be able to do that you did? And I don't want to put you on the spot and having no specifics, but I just mean, like, was there a realization that, like, yes, thank you for giving me the space to do this. I was scared for a second, but I did it.
Yeah, I had a few of those moments on set. I don't think I went home one night and couldn't go to bed because I was kicking myself in the ass for fucking up. I almost look at it like a game of golf where you have to go to work every single day for 28 days or however many days, 24 days, and you have to at least par the course. You have to at least par every day. Otherwise, if you get a couple bogeys, the whole movie could be affected. So if you don't par or birdie or get a hole in one every day.
I love that analogy.
For me, that's kind of how I looked at it. It's a weird analogy, but it's true. So I knew I had to at least par every day. And I went home every night going, okay, today I know I parred. Ooh, today I might have even got a birdie. I felt good about that. And then, maybe I was delusional and wrong but in the end, after seeing the movie, I think my instinct was right in that I parred the course, or maybe even better because of the response that we got. And so you have to kind of break it down like that to me. Like each single day is this individual different day that you have to show up and nail it and fucking.
Yeah, and that's good that even if you are delusional about if you parred or not, like it doesn't matter. If you start to realize that you're behind, that's going to sink you. But that is so important to at least feel like, even if it's delusional, even if you're wrong, that you're parring and you're staying ahead at least or even.
Yeah, exactly. At least even. And I just shot a movie called Easy's Waltz in Vegas, and it was arguably since Red Rocket the biggest movie of my life, co-starring Vince Vaughn and Al Pacino, and it's it's one of those jobs where you're on set and you're sitting like we are right now, and you're running lines with Pacino, and you're about to shoot, and it feels like a fever dream or something. And it's just weird, and part of your brain is going, okay, remember your lines. The other part of your brain is going, okay, deliver the lines good and believable. The other part of your brain's like, okay, really listen and respond. The other part of your brain's going, that's Al fucking Pacino. What's going on right now? And you have to compartmentalize all those things in the moment as it's happening. And so I don't think I would have been able to handle that. But now that I'm 50 years old and I've been around long enough, I think I'm relaxed enough to be able to handle that. And it was the same thing. I remember going home every night to my hotel room. We shot at a hotel in Vegas at the Wynn. And I'd go to my room at the end of the day and I'd be like, okay, I could go to bed tonight knowing I did my job. Yeah. And there was only like 1 or 2 days where I was really kicking myself in the ass. And it was a dance scene that I had to rehearse for 6 months. I had to rehearse and learn how to dance. I'm not a dancer. Yeah. And that's really out of my comfort zone. And when I read that script, I go, okay, I could handle this movie, but the hard part is going to be doing the waltz and the tango. It's not something I've ever done. So I studied dance for months and months and months for this one little scene that opens the movie. And of course, I got bronchitis in Vegas living in a casino. And I was so sick on the day that we shot the dance scene that I could barely hold up my co-star and turn her around. Kate Mara plays the love interest. And I was weak on my feet and I felt it. And I was like, fuck, this is, I get sick the day I got to do the dance scene. The magic of editing, they cut around it, they'll cut some angles and make it work. Yeah. But it was one of those things where I went home that night really down on myself, and I think I beat myself up too much. I'm not a perfectionist, but I just want to do my job. And I remember I showed up to set off book because, let's be honest, this is a huge opportunity for me to be the lead in a movie with Vince Vaughn and Al Pacino. I didn't want to let them down, so I showed up off book at rehearsals. And I remember Vince saying, are you off book? Because I didn't have my lines when we were rehearsing. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, you? He goes, I don't know my lines yet. And we're shooting in 3 days. And that's his process because he's Vince Vaughn and he can do that. Right. And he said, I like to not know my lines too much before I go. I said, I agree with you if it's a comedy. If it's a comedy, I don't want to over-rehearse because then it's not going to be funny to me anymore. But this is Nick Pizzolatto wrote and directed it from True Detective. So it is straight down the line, dramatic, serious. There's no hiding behind any comedy. I really wanted to nail it. So I showed up prepared and it felt really good to be off book and take, and of course, Vince murdered it. He didn't need to prepare the way I did. We had a different approach. Right. I didn't want to go home every night or any night and think I didn't par the course. So I really prepared for that one more so than any movie I've ever prepared for.
And does that make you want?
The stakes were high.
Right. Does that make you want to be prepared every time, even if the stakes aren't high? Like that? You know what I mean? Are you going to be off book now?
It depends on the project. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. This one was very very dialogue heavy, and there was a certain okay, this may sound obnoxious, but I really think that acting is like music, and there's a melody to it, especially in comedy. And it's like making music, and there's a melody and a rhythm to acting, and it's you're making music. And sometimes it's better to, just like you're in a band, if you rehearsed a lot, you're gonna play the song better. And so I used to be of the mindset of, I think I might have been lying to myself and been like, I don't want to rehearse and run my lines. I'm jinxing it, this and that. But after this and another movie I just did, I think I want to show up prepared, like you just said, more often. Yes. I think that's only fair to the other actors, to me, and not wing it so much. You know,
because you're not losing a lot by being prepared, like people think, right?
I mean, it's my only job to do is show up and know your lines. And then if you really over prepare, let's say, you'll be so comfortable with the lines that you could try so many different things. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
So, and again, comedy though is different. I don't think comedy should be over rehearsed, because if it's not funny to me anymore, it's not going to be funny to the audience. Yeah. So I think comedy is very different.
But don't you think there's even a way that you can get over that if you keep doing it? Like, I'm talking about take 14 on a comedy thing. Yeah. So then it becomes funny again?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that could happen. You kind of lose.
But you don't have time for take 14 sometimes.
Right. That's right. So, yeah, I think it all depends on the project. But if anything, I think the overall point that I'm making is at this point in my life and in my career, I think in the past I skated by kind of just being like, yeah, whatever. Like I'm not lying. I would go to an audition hungover, barely knowing my lines, and I'd book it. And if I got 8 hours sleep and combed my hair perfectly and over memorized my lines, I wouldn't get the job. There was something about the like energy of like being relaxed and not caring and wanting it so bad. Yeah. Now I'm at a point, and I don't understand it. I don't care, but I care so much. Yeah. It's weird. It's like this dichotomy. It's this weird thing where I don't give a fuck, but I give a fuck.
You know what you
that
mean?
Makes sense.
I know what you mean.
It's a weird thing.
I think it's a sweet spot.
It is a sweet spot. Yeah. And I don't take it for granted. And I think I'm very humbled and grateful to have my career back after, losing it for over a decade. I don't take it for granted. I understand how special this is. And the only thing I care about now, I did the whole thing when I was younger about experiencing fame and experiencing pleasure chasing and experiencing all the things that come with being, a young, shiny object in Hollywood. And, I don't care about any of that shit anymore. I just want to do good work that I'm proud to say, go see this movie, and movies and TV shows that I would actually want to go watch and see. And thank God I'm in this amazing place where I'm getting offers. I've never had this before, where I get offers and I'm kind of choosing the jobs that I want to do. Yeah. And that's never happened to me before. So I don't take it for granted, because I also know the wave could end. Right. So I just want to work hard and do a good job. Right. It's actually makes everything quite simple. Right. That's all I got to do. Right. Everything else is bullshit.
But even if you do have what you call imposter syndrome, you have you come to a place though where you're like, this is happening because I deserve this.
Yeah, I have those moments. Yeah, I do feel that way sometimes. I think, it's like anything. I'm never one thing all the time. Yeah. None of us are. There's moments where I can sit back and really be proud and own it. And then there's other times where I'm like, I'm the luckiest son of a bitch in the world, and why me? And there's other people that deserve it more. And I go through that whole thing, and there's other people who are more talented and maybe deserve it more. And it was similar to when I Okay, so what happened was I was working as an MTV VJ here in New York in the 90s. And Gus Van Sant saw me on MTV and he said, I want to audition that guy for Good Will Hunting to play a bully that Matt Damon beats up. So I went into audition with Matt Damon for Gus Van Sant. I had never acted in my life. And I'm sitting there reading the lines and Gus Van Sant stopped me in the middle of my audition and said, Simon, I have to stop you. This is one of the worst auditions I've ever seen.
Wow.
And Matt Damon started laughing and I was so embarrassed. But he wasn't trying to be a dick. He was being honest. He goes, Simon, you're not ready for this movie,
Wow.
but you have something and I want you to go to acting school.
Wow.
So I said, wow, Gus Van Sant wants me to go to acting school? Well, shit, okay, I better go to acting school. So I went and found this guy, Anthony Abeson, amazing acting coach here in the theater district, and started doing Gotham City Improv. And I tried stand-up and I just started doing all these other things. And I listened to Gus and that was the impetus to me being an actor. And when I got into this theater class in New York City, there was all these like, you know, Stanislavski, Meisner trained actors who were about the craft. And here I come and I'm on MTV announcing videos and I'm that guy that they don't like in the class because and I'm the one getting jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm the one working and they're the struggling actors who don't get the breaks that I got. So yeah, that's kind of why I have imposter syndrome a little bit, because I feel bad because I'm like, all these people are so talented, but because I was on MTV, I get to get the WB pilot. It's not fair. So I feel bad about it, but at the same time, I just, you know, so I go back and forth.
I think there's people like this, and Gus Van Sant might have been one, who saw something.
Yeah.
Even though that audition was terrible.
Right.
You know, he didn't say, go do something else.
Right.
He said, go to acting school. and there's a seed in there.
Yeah. He gave me the belief and the confidence and said, okay.
People can see this sometimes.
He saw something and I can't, I'm just used to who I'm, so I can't say that and I can't see that. And I, you know, I don't think anyone's any more special or better. I think everybody's the same, but I guess there is sort of a certain thing that I don't think is learned. I think you either have it or you don't. There's a certain quality that I think people will find interesting that you either have or you don't.
And you have to
cultivate almost like
going
to, like, I remember going to this comedy class here in New York. And I remember at one point I'm in the class, I'm like, you can't just learn to have, you could maybe learn structurally some comedy and do some improv, but some things you either got it or you don't.
Yes.
It's almost like Whitney Houston was born with that fucking voice, okay? And she probably learned how to utilize it. But some people, you know, there's a thing that you either have or you don't, and I don't think it's a learned skill. You can take that and work with it. So I guess I had something that he saw and that Sean Baker saw, because I remember Sean saying later, he goes, I remember watching Simon in these small roles, you know, in Hollywood saying, Hollywood needs to give this guy a leading role shot. Why doesn't anyone else see this? He wrote it on his letterbox. I did a little indie movie called Bodied. It was like a Joseph Kahn, Eminem produced battle rap movie. And I had one scene in it. And I guess Sean Baker saw it and wrote, someone needs to give Simon a shot. And 4 years later, he did. 5 years later, he did. So he saw it.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy to say this, but I just turned 50 and I feel like I'm just getting started. That's crazy to say, and maybe I'm delusional, but I feel like I'm just getting started and I have so much stuff to do and it's exciting because it feels new and I've been doing it for 25 years. And I still feel that exciting thing and that whatever that thing is, I still feel it and it inspires me and it makes me excited and it's contagious and I think people want to work with that and people it helps your other actors around you. You know, it's almost like this, like there's two, it's really interesting in real life and I'm sure on film or the stage, there's two types of people. Next time you hang out with somebody in your life, check in with yourself after you're done hanging out with them and say, do I feel drained right now or do I feel charged? Is that person an energy vampire or are they a charger? Do they charge me up and make me feel something? And I'd like to think that I'm somebody that charges and I don't want to drain people. I don't want to be an energy vampire. And I know those people and some of them are in my life and sometimes you have to be careful how much time and energy you put around these people that can suck your life force out. You know, especially in this toxic business, there's a lot of weird people. So I just need to stay a charger and not a drainer. And I think that's a superpower that I feel is, something that I have that, unless I'm delusional, I think that's who I am.
We have to talk about Blink Twice.
Okay.
This film has a lot of cinematic artistry that I appreciated from this first-time director, Zoë Kravitz, who also wrote the script.
Yep.
But tell me about that aspect of it. Here it is, somebody who's an actor, how that changes things when you're being directed by somebody like that. And then she's trying to create a visual world, and how you played into that, or how she dealt with the actors in that to help her see her vision.
So, okay, I love it when a director wrote the script because they know what they want, so they're very clear, and that's always very comforting when they already have in their brain what they want. There's no gap in communication between the writer and the director. Zoë wrote it. So Zoë knows exactly what she wants. Zoe's very, very intelligent, sensitive, boss, force of nature. She was the mom on the set of all of these actors, from Gina Davis to me to Haley Joel Osment to Christian Slater. I mean, what an amazing group she put together. Really quickly, before I answer the question, she did a very good job at vetting a group of people to be stuck in the middle of the jungle for 2 months together in the middle of July in these humid jungle conditions that were challenging. She really put together a great group of people separate from their acting ability and what is on screen. A great group of people to spend 12 hours a day with for 2 months. Zoë knows how to communicate. We were talking about this before you hit record, about how to communicate to the actors as a director. Since she is an actor, she was very good at communicating, which is everything, with me and other actors. And that goes a very long way to feel secure that she knows what she wants, and she will look you in the eye and tell you exactly what she wants in a very calming manner, which to me is a nice quality in a director, not frazzled. There was a lot of things going haywire all the time, and she managed to stay calm in the eye of the storm, which made she's the captain of the ship. And she was surprising. I don't know if surprising is the word, but for a first-time director, I was very impressed at how well she did, especially considering that her fiance, Channing Tatum, is the lead of the movie. You got to imagine those personal dynamics. Imagine your partner and you're directing them, and it was so interesting to watch like her say to her man, "Hey, try it like this," and him saying, "Okay, babe." And watching that dynamic in itself was interesting and cool to see. They're a couple.
See, I didn't even know that. That's how out of it I am.
A lot of people don't know that, which is interesting. They're getting married as public information. So that's her man, and she's directing him, and it was so cool to see Channing. I learned so much by watching him. Zoë was extremely confident and poised and comforting, and made me feel very relaxed and let me do me. And she said something to me that actually stuck with me, that I have to remind myself all the time, because I kept wanting to do more in the movie. Like, I kind of show up and I have one line here and there. I'm like, hey, what if I do this in this one? What if I'm pick up the fish and I slap it a couple times? And I'm like trying to add shticks to the scene that just don't need it. And I think I just wanted to, like, I don't know, it wasn't even upstaging. It was more like I just wanted to do something maybe more than say a line here or there. So I remember at one point she said, "Simon, you're enough." And I was like, oh shit. Wow. I needed to hear that. I'm enough. I don't need to slap the fish. I don't need to do the whole thing. Like, I could just stand there and say the line, but I have this weird instinct that I need to be performative and do more. She's like, "Simon, you just being there in the scene and saying the line, that's enough."
It's so true.
And it was so simple. And it was like, you'd think I would know that. And it took her to tell me that. And I remind myself that all the time now when I'm doing a movie or an audition or whatever I'm doing, I tell myself, it's almost like a mantra now, is that I'm enough. And that I don't need to, there's this weird instinct to perform and actually no. If the fucking camera's right here in your face, you don't need to do a lot. Just like, you're enough. You're here now. You made it. You're in.
Do you know what the amazing thing about that is? She was telling you the truth. That would have been brilliant, even if it was untrue, for her to say that to somebody.
Right.
But I'm telling you that it's doubly amazing because it helped you and it's true.
Well, thank you. And Zoe, if you're listening, thank you. And I thanked her again for this because it was so simple. It was just one of those like light bulb moments that you're just like, oh shit. Like you could do all that. It was just like, oh my God, that makes my job so much easier.
I want to use this story, if that's okay, that you just told. Because I want to say, you don't have to slap the fish.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell that to people.
Yeah.
And then what does that mean? And I'll tell the story.
Yeah, please do. Let it be the example.
You do not have to slap the fish.
It was such a valuable lesson. So that's just a testament to her, her wisdom. She seems a lot older than she is. She's this petite little angel, but she's a force and she's a very strong woman. And you know, when you see her mom and dad who came to set, for Christ's sake, your dad's Lenny Kravitz and her mom is, you know, who her mom is. She's, Liliqui is her new name. But she's from these two forces of nature and they're just the most beautiful family. Yeah. And Zoe's she's a unicorn. I mean, she's truly, I am just very grateful that she put me in this movie and I got to play with her and now we're friends and she gave me arguably the best note that I am now using in every job that I do that's helping my acting so much, which is just like, I'm enough. I don't have to like, oh, what can I do to make this more, you know?
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm just enough.
What did you learn from Tatum?
I watched him, what he was doing as a producer and an actor, watching firsthand. Me, I would do my scene and go back to my hotel room and lay in the air conditioning and run my lines or watch a YouTube video or do some push-ups or something. Channing, when he wasn't on camera, he was at Video Village giving notes. How about we try it this way? I'm like, wait a minute. Oh shit, Channing, are you producing this movie too? He's like, yeah, I'm a producer on this. I'm not just the actor. My production company works with MGM. So I'm invested in this and I care about everything from your wardrobe to how, you know, Haley delivers this line to how blah, 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 blah. And I just watched him never kick his feet up between takes and go relax like I was doing. He was working the whole time because he cared about the movie and he was a producer. So I said, okay, Simon, take notes. This is the next level. This is, if you want to raise the bar and do more than just wait for the phone to ring as an actor and just read lines and say, stand here, wear this, say it like this. Watch what Channing's doing. And I did. And I observed him and I learned so much that after we were done, I said to my agent and manager, I want to start producing. Okay. Next movie I got, my agent said, you want Simon? Put him, get him a producer credit. Simon wants to produce this movie. Okay. I was like, it was that easy. That's all I had to do. Next thing you know, I have an executive producer credit. Next thing you know, I'm helping cast my co-star. I'm picking my wardrobe. I'm doing rewrites. I'm helping with the music in the movie. I'm a producer now. So just watching Channing do that, I sat back like a sponge and I go, okay, that's what I want to do. Yeah. So I just learned. Every job you do is a learning experience. And that one was a big one. And obviously that's like, you know, you're dealing with MGM, Channing Tatum. That's like A-list, you know. So you want to learn. So I sat back and learned.
And now you have this greater investment in the work because you have more of your fingers in the pie.
That's
if you will. Right? Or you get to control. I mean, this is what actors should be doing, right?
That's right.
I mean, they should have more investment
in
the overall project.
When you see the real players in this industry, they are producing their own stuff and they are writing their own stuff and they're not just waiting around. Those are the ones who you see really kind of doing special things, are the ones who are, you know, have that in them to be a producer or a writer or, you know, get more involved than just being, look at me reading the lines on camera. You know, it's more creative. You have more, it's just, I found it to be very inspiring and now I want to do that more. And so I started a production company and I'll be producing more things and then I can cast my friends and put them in movies and I can help write stuff and it just is going to open up all these other doors instead of just like, waiting for my agent to call like, hey, Simon, you booked a movie for 2 weeks in New Mexico. Right. Now it's more like, hey, let's develop something. And I'm taking meetings with directors and producers to develop something. Right. And they're like, Simon, do you have any ideas? You want to do a movie? Let's do it.
And what are some of the things that you want to do that you haven't been able to do yet? and you don't have to get specific, but I just mean like in terms of like now that you're producing, that gets you excited about developing something that you can be in, that you have never would have thought about before because no one was putting you in something like that.
So to answer your question, pretty much what I just said about the production thing, I've only done it once on one movie. I produced a movie called Operation Taco Gary's. That's a very silly, funny throwback comedy that feels like Harold and Kumar. It's like a buddy road. It's a road comedy. And I wanted to make a movie that's, you can put your brain under your seat for 90 minutes and have a laugh and it doesn't take itself too seriously. I want to be able to do more stuff like that because I don't feel like there's enough comedies out there anymore. That I want to bring back comedies that are mindless but smart, but mindless in the sense that you don't have to think a lot. You could just have a laugh. And I feel like we've lost those. And I'm a huge fan of like Chris Elliott from Get a Life, or I'm a fan of David Zucker, Airplane Naked Gun. I'm a fan of Mel Brooks and all the old, like, you know, those really silly comedies that were just ridiculous. So I want to do that. I want to do not just the cool artsy indie art house stuff like Sweet East, which is awesome, or Red Rocket, or MGM movie. I want to do some straight silly comedies. You know, I think the world needs those more than ever. So that's something that I think that if I could choose something to do, is more of those. Because nowadays you could do everything. I remember back in the day, it was like, oh, not too many dramatic actors also do comedy, but the ones that do, you know, it's pretty awesome when you see Robin Williams or Jim Carrey go do a dramatic role, or you know what I mean? So I just want to do more stuff like that. That's what I see in my future, is producing some lighthearted, fun stuff for the world, as everything's so heavy out there. You know,
we need that.
We need that. We need to take a vacation from the heaviness and like have a laugh.
Hell yeah.
Let's have some fun.
Simon Rex, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.